Yeah. So, good morning, everybody. I don't know how many of y'all know about Viktor Frankl. It's somebody maybe you should Google. Um, but he has an incredible book called Man's Search for Meaning that I think is going to add a lot to your life. So, I hope you're ready for this morning's training. Right now, if you haven't, and join our newsletter. Go to wearemillionaireminded.com. Make sure you put your name and your email in the box, and it's going to make sure that you get it every Friday. It comes out around 3:30 p.m. If you're already on the newsletter list, then make sure you go and read your email. Go check it out, and then let me see it in the comments how you felt it. Like we're real interested to know how you're receiving these, because even though it's such a quick read, it does take us some time to put it together. It's a powerful journey into mindset, skill set, and heart set that takes really um, small amount of time to read, even though it can have a lasting impact on your life. We always give you quotes, and we always give you, skills that you can use to build your business. And then we always give you little secret insights that can change your life. And today is going to be a little bit of both, you know, quotes and secret insights that can change your life, because this book that we're going to discuss this morning is amazing. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad you made it in. I'm glad you made it in. My name is Haziq Ali. For those that don't know, hope everybody is feeling good this morning. I'm still here in the airport. I'm going to be touching down a little bit later today, and we're going to get to it. But for now, it's time for us to do what we do, baby. So I hope you're ready. Share this with an entrepreneur who needs it. Share this with an entrepreneur who needs it. This can be a life changer for you. Every single morning, this is what we do, 6 days a week. Shouts out to Miss Amma, the CPA, who does it on Saturday mornings. Shouts out to her. I know she out there somewhere. Um, very interested to know which one of these is going to hit you the hardest. And maybe you should add this book to your reading list, A Man's Search for Meaning. A Man's Search for Meaning. We'll get this party started in about 2.5 minutes. Make sure you share the training. This is probably Viktor Frankl's most highly regarded book. You know, um, Maybe you've never heard of any of his books, but I want to tell you, this is something you should check out, because it talks about how he made it through Auschwitz, through the concentration camps and all of that. It's harrowing and it's enchanting. It's horrifying and it's inspiring. You know what I mean? But what I think is so amazing about it is that you can use this as a compass throughout your life. This can be readily applied as almost like a spiritual compass for the modern day man or woman, because today's times are harrowing and enchanting, horrifying and inspiring at the same time. And since we have so much distraction going around right now, there's probably more distracting information available than at any time I can think of in history. Um, Most people are quietly yearning for wisdom. They're looking for little insights, right? And I'm like, hey, instead of, I don't know, fabricating some kind of new type of guidance system that may or may not even be applicable to your unique situation, let's leverage one of the finest minds throughout history, and see if we can't come up with a little bit of a guidance system that's more timeless, you know. And that's what I feel like we've done here today. Viktor Frankl is his name. We're gonna get this party started. Yeah, welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Y'all know it's check-in time. Rep your city. Y'all know how we do it. Let them know what kind of business you have. Let them know how it helps people. We're gonna get this party started in about 45 seconds or so. Let's get it. Let's get it. Also, I'd be remiss to not remind you to like this thing. I don't care if you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn. Um, Maybe you're on our YouTube channel. I hope you're watching on YouTube. That's my favorite of all of them. Make sure you're watching on YouTube, because what you are able to do from there is help us build the entire channel. But even if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you like it, make sure you comment, make sure you share, and make sure you subscribe, because you can't count on Facebook to show you just positivity, can you? Not at all. All right, let's get this party started. Okay, so here are 5 of my favorite and most applicable excerpts from Dr. Frankl's most classic writings. Here's the first one I got for you. Write this in the comments, somebody. Between response and stimulus, there's a space. And that space is our power to choose our response, right? And I said that wrong. I said that wrong. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. I'm going to say it one more time so you can get it. Between stimulus and response, there's a space. And that space is our power to choose. See, this is where emotional agility resides. Always, even if only for a split second, we're given a choice. And our response after the event unfolds. Does that make sense? Things always become increasingly complicated when we either forget we have a choice or we don't believe we have a choice, even though in essence you're choosing not to believe it. You see what I did there? You always have a choice, and choosing is the ultimate tool. If you take a full 5 seconds even just to process events prior to your response, what you're doing is you're taking response ability. And I'm going to tell you where it's especially powerful when you're taken aback by what just now happened. Because what this does is it shifts the power back into our favor. This space between the stimulus and the response is sort of like our mental fortress. It's this command center for life-altering actions to be triggered. So make sure you treat it as such. A lot of times we don't realize it's our perspective that can either be a prison or a passport. And if you don't take the time to choose, then usually what you're choosing is prison. Does that make sense? Here's number 2. If that makes sense, then give it to me. Give it to me. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose. Here's number 2. The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause, to serve, or another person to love, the more human he is, and the more he actualizes himself. Man, I love this quote because as babies, we're normally really selfish. But here's that quote again. The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is, and the more he actualizes himself. Listen, you ever notice babies are selfish? You never found a baby want to share their bottle. You ain't never seen it. You done seen a lot of things, but you never seen that. Because it takes maturity to understand that the most selfish thing you can do for yourself is serve somebody else. Some of the hardest yet most freeing advice I've ever received is the statement that it's not about you. Can somebody give me that in the comments? It's not about you. Or the way you put it is, it's not about me. It's not about me, right? Because it's easy to point to the other person. But remember, when you do that, you got 1, 2, 3 pointing back at you, right? It's not about me. It's not about me. Because there are moments in life when we do the right thing, and every single time we feel with spiritual joy. We don't think about who might have been watching. We don't think about if we'll get credit or how it might come back around. We just do it. These are the moments when we get outside ourselves. These are the moments where we stand for a greater purpose. These are the moments that deliver this lasting fulfillment that we're all searching for. These are the times where you light up, not because of some recognition you received, but because you committed an act of true nobility. This is where you leave your mark. This is where you help to move the world in a positive manner. The more you look to be a moon instead of the sun, the happier you'll be along the way. You see what I did there? The more you look to be a moon instead of the sun, the happier you'll be along the way. Here's the third one I got for you this morning. Here's the third one. In some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. Now, that ain't DMX. That's Viktor Frankl. You always hear me talk about how all suffering comes from self-absorption. Where the way Viktor Frankl put it in his book, again, and the book is called Man's Search for Meaning. I dare you Google it. I dare you purchase this. This is something to add to your library. Man's Search for Meaning. He points out how, in some way, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. You've heard it before. Life has no meaning except the meaning we give it. And I understand what that does. A lot of times it makes you feel like, it feels sort of like dark, almost like a grim outlook, like life has no meaning, right? But no, no, no. The second part is where you find the power. It's actually quite the contrary of some grim outlook. Because what this does is it grants us the freedom to assign whatever meaning we want to assign to it. When we realize that a meaning isn't necessarily fixed, we can now sift through our options until we land on a meaning that's empowering for us. Like in the book, he talks about this little boy dying who revered the courage that he saw unfold when some cat who was terminally ill kind of handled it with such dignity, right? He was handling the fact that it was so clear to him that he was going to die, but he did it with such dignity. He found it so honorable. So instead of cursing the heavens when he saw his own fate coming to a close, right? He felt that the universe was granting him a similar opportunity to just be strong, to be honorable, to be noble, right? To be revered by somebody else. Now, lucky for most of us, life ain't all about these life and death decisions. Our everyday experiences ain't life and death. And this stays this way until one day it is. The fragility and the beauty of life are almost like one and the same. It's almost like life is beautiful because it's fragile. You know what I'm saying? As I begin to get older, I begin to have friends who pass away from natural or not so natural causes. It reminds me, as I begin to have relatives pass away, some of you put prayers in the air for my granny who just had a stroke. One of my best friends' mom just went in for open heart surgery. It really makes you start to realize that it's essential that we maximize our time and minimize our suffering so we can make the most of this life. Don't cling to the first thing that shows up when a tough situation presents itself. What you want to do is start to learn to scan these optional meanings, scan the choices that you have for what kind of meaning to attribute to a certain situation, and make sure you make a wise, empowering decision, not just take the first thought that your mind gives you. Because the wild thing about this thing called life is that your mind, a lot of times, when you let it go to its own devices, it starts thinking of things that are wrong. Can I get a witness? A lot of times, your mind, when left to its own devices, will find everything wrong with a situation because your mind is a survival device. So you got to watch that. Here's the fourth quote I got from Viktor Frankl. Was a wild boy, right? Here's the fourth one I got for you. When we're no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Oof. Is that something right there? When we're no longer able to change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. I thought that was powerful for us because check it out. The majority of suffering occurs today when, in this world of social media and comparison, the blueprint of somebody else's life doesn't match reality, right? That's where the suffering comes from. When your blueprint, when either you're looking at someone else's situation and you're like, the way theirs worked out is not how mine is working out, or when you look at your own plans and it doesn't match up with how your cards are playing themselves, right? It's like a gap. There's a gap that appears between expectation and actuality. And that's where all the pain is. The pain is always in the unmet expectations. So what can we do? Well, there's a few things we can do to kind of shift the occurrence of reality. But let's be honest, sometimes most of this stuff is out of our control, man. And to continue closing the gap, we're going to have to change the hard expectations that we have for our lives. Immediately after we do that, feelings of resignation may show up, like we're compromising what we deserve. However, the lasting change can be found in our values, y'all. The lasting change can be found at where we place and what we place at the highest level of importance. Think about that. Like, everybody wants love, everybody wants passion in their lives, but sometimes we find ourselves only wanting the love, only wanting the passion if it's packaged a certain way. Somebody else might desire success, but it has to be a distinct type of success, right? I'm just pointing this out because reevaluating sometimes is where all our power is. Reevaluating what we want the most versus what we want right now. Man, that can be a saving grace a lot of times. Are you thinking about the movement or are you thinking about the moment? I'm going to tell you, if you want to make the most out of a difficult situation, it's usually found in you thinking as long term as possible. So that's why I love that quote as well. Here's number 4 again. When we're no longer able to change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves. We're challenged to change ourselves. All right, here's the last one I got for you, y'all. Well, the world is in a bad state, but everything will become still worse unless each of us does his best. Now, this is him talking live and direct from the Auschwitz concentration camps. For those that don't understand what happened in the Holocaust, it was like a maafa, but here, um, right around our grandparents' age, right? This is World War II. Definitely our great grandparents. And I just think that that's a hell of a thing for him to be able to say from that sort of perspective. The world is jacked up, but everything can still get worse if we don't do our best. Isn't that incredible? For the world is in a bad state, but everything will become still worse unless each of us does his best. I think that's just really powerful. I think that's such a transcendent kind of state of mind. There's a book called The Four Agreements, y'all hear me talk about all the time, from this cat named Don Miguel Ruiz, right? And one of the four agreements is that you always got to do your best, that always doing your best is critical to life really working out for you. A lot of times we look around and we're like, how did this person get blessed in that way? Or how does this, you know, who gets the fame and the fortune? Man, that's damn near a crapshoot. Who gets to pick up the litter? That's a roulette wheel. But here's one thing we know for sure. There's going to be way less spoils for any of us to split unless all of us do our best. This is where faith comes in, right? This is where you got to continue making sacrifices for the sake of your own contribution to the world, even if nobody's watching. Now, the silver lining for those of you who are paying attention to this morning, for those of you who care to improve and you've made this a part of your daily routine, we get to choose, baby. The ultimate tool in life is choice, right? We talked about it last week. Your mind is just a suggestion machine. I brought up working out. I was like, when it's time for you to work out, your mind suggests to you that you're too tired to get out of bed. When it's time for you to run around the block or take a walk with your boo thing, your mind may suggest that, hey, there's a television show where we could spend quality time just as good, right? But you know what you can do, since your mind is a suggestion machine? What you can do is give it a different suggestion. You can suggest to it that you're going to feel like a freaking winner when you get done. You can suggest to it that you're setting a good habit for you and your relationship. You hear what I'm saying to you? Your mind is a suggestion machine, but the ultimate tool is choice. I hope I'm making sense to you. And when you engage in activities that you legitimately enjoy, it puts you in a better state. And now that you're in a better state, you're a better person. Now you're more kind. Now you're more supportive. Now, when you come into contact with people, you have a brighter light to shine on them because you feel like a brighter light. All I'm saying to you this morning is life is hard enough for all of us, man. And if left to our own devices, our minds will wander into darkness. And sometimes it's hard to pull back from that stuff. This is why we do our best. We continue getting up. We keep on helping others, doing as much as we can with what we got and what time permits us to do. And when we keep that in our minds, man, we might not shake the world, but we could damn sure move it. Huh? It's time for affirmations, y'all. Y'all know the line by now. Let's